Alright, hello everyone. Today we are going to be working in Adobe Illustrator, and we are going to be doing the Keep Calm and Carry On poster, but we're going to be doing a reiteration of that called Keep Calm and Curry On. Found this tutorial online, and I thought it would be a good way to learn a few things about font and minimalist design and working with colors. So the way I got here was through the Adobe Illustrator Moodle, and you'll find the classwork tutorial right here. And when you click it, it'll open up in a new tab, and it'll look just like this. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so we could actually read what we're doing here. Okay, so we're going to make this Keep Calm poster, a two-part tutorial introducing some smart Illustrator and Photoshop features to recreate the 1940s MOD poster. This poster was made after and during World War II in England. And so let's start in Illustrator. Illustrator opens up, it looks like this. You have your toolbar on the left hand side, you have your title bars over here, and we have some more tools over here. But for the most part, we'll be working with the left toolbar and the right toolbar. So let's start with the tutorial, and we'll look over here. We'll start with step 1. Okay, so step 1 says to open up Illustrator and start a new document by going to File, New, or Control N. I really like using keyboard shortcuts, so we're going to do that. And we will call it last name, space, hyphen, space, Keep Calm, and Curry On. Alright, and we'll go back and see what size it is. And it says 700 by 940, set to RGB, set to screen, 72 ppi, preview mode to default. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it over here, over to the right. I'm going to cancel this real quick so I could readjust my screen here. Okay, so we'll start a new document again. Control N, last name, space, hyphen, space, and Curry On. Okay. So we want document title, type. Let's see what we got here. RGB 700 by 940. And notice that it says pixels. Make sure that you're using pixels. Pixels is not the same as points, so you're going to want to make sure you change that. Okay, open up the advanced, and we're going to want to change the color mode as in the tutorial from CMYK to RGB. And the raster effects are supposed to be set to screen at 72 ppi. And the preview mode set to default. So now we have our new document, and we're ready to begin. So I'll be switching between these two windows throughout the tutorial. So for right now, we're going to open up this one and minimize Illustrator so we could read our next step. So some of the images here are no longer here because when I made the PDF, apparently the images didn't make it over. But as long as you follow this tutorial, you should be good to go. So step 2 says to select the rectangle tool, shortcut M, and draw a rectangle the exact size of the artboard. You can mess with the X and Y axis and the W and H dimensions, which is width and height. If you need to, this rectangle must not spill over or be inside the image artboard. So make sure with your rectangle you are going to fill it, and we're going to, so let's go back to Illustrator, full screen, and make sure it's in the middle here. This way you can see what you're working with. Okay, so just like that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get a selection tool. We're going to drag a box the exact size. Now, the only way to really know that you have the exact size is that the solid line absolutely disappears. Okay? And we need to be using the rectangle tool, not the selection tool. An easy way to see if you're drawing the right size rectangle is if you notice on my crosshairs, I'm missing the right crosshair and the bottom crosshair. So this means that I'm actually going to make a perfect rectangle on this corner right now, and I'm going to drag it to the opposite corner. And I'm going to do the same thing until my top and left crosshairs disappear. And it's being pretty difficult, so I might not even be able to do this. But you should be able to. So what we'll do is, I'm just going to, actually I'm going to redo this. This way I do it the right way. I don't want to do it the wrong way. So I'm just going to click away here. I'm going to try that again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in just so I can see a little bit better. So let's move into 100%. And we'll try that again. Okay, so now my crosshairs have disappeared. And notice you can't even notice the blue line. That means you're making the right size rectangle. Now hopefully this will scroll down on its own, which it doesn't look like it's going to. Hopefully. Yeah, that's not going to work, is it? Alright, so I leave it there. Let's see if I can bring this point. No, I cannot. So maybe I could take my selection tool and resize this guy right here. Here we go. There we go. Okay, now I have a perfect rectangle outline tracing my print document that we just created. So it should look like this. Okay, so we go back to the tutorial and see what it says. So with the rectangle selected, we're going to click Fill or shortcut X and enter in the RGB field. We're going to enter this code, so we're going to want to copy this code so we don't have to keep memorizing it. Okay, and it's a nice mustard yellow. So Fill, shortcut X, and we're going to enter this. So X, notice how it switches my palette over here. Okay, this is my stroke right here. We don't want to use the stroke. The stroke is the outline color. We want fill. So let's make sure fill is in front. And in order to change the color of the fill color, we just double click this box right here. And then we put it in this number box right here. Notice how there's 6 F's in there. 6 F's equals white, 6 zeros equals black. And any combination of alphanumeric numbers, such as letters and numbers, will create different types of colors. So if you go ahead and hit enter there, you'll get that yellow color that the tutorial was talking about. So let's head back to our tutorial. We've got that. Okay, step 3. Okay, with the rectangle selected, open the appearance window. Shortcut Shift F6 and click the stroke to set it to the same mustard color you entered. So we already copied this, and if you haven't already, please copy this number right here. I'll copy it again. Remember, you highlight it and then you hit Control C to copy, or you can right click and copy. Okay, so we're going to go to the appearance window. Shift F6. We're going to set it to the same color. So let's go back. I'm going to go Shift. I don't even have F6 because I'm using a Mac. So I'm going to actually go the long way. So let's see if we can get to the appearance window here. This is the appearance window right here. So we click the stroke right here. We activate the stroke. And we're going to want it to be the same color here. Okay? And click OK. Notice how it's only a 1-point stroke. This may or may not change in a second. Okay. So we entered that for the stroke, and now we need the rectangle selected and click on the stroke button on the appearance window again to create a second stroke. So we need 2 strokes here. And I believe if you open up one of these windows, I'm not sure which one it is, but it definitely... Where's that appearance window? Here it is, appearance window. Here we go. Notice that we have 1 stroke here. We need 2 strokes. So we don't want to clear the appearance. We actually just want to duplicate this stroke. So an easy way to do this, we can, let's see. Just go ahead and click duplicate selected item right here. And now we have 2 strokes. So now we'll be working with 2 strokes. Okay, so we're going to select the lower of the 2 strokes from the appearance window and change the color to a different color. This color is going to be a little bit of a brown color. It's not going to be yellow like our background. So this is going to be our contrasting color, which is a nice complementary color to the yellow we're using. So we double click the stroke, the lower one, and then we go ahead and we double click this, and we enter in our number and we paste that in there. Okay, so now we have the stroke. Okay, now the only problem with our stroke is that we can't really see it. So in step 5 here, we're going to select the lower and browner stroke and set the stroke weight to 70 pixels, align the stroke, and we're going to align it to the inside. Okay, so stroke weight 70, stroke to the inside. So we click on the stroke window here. Now it says stroke weight 70, and we're going to align this to the inside. That's the middle button right here. So we go ahead and that's it, and then you can just click away to kind of get away from that. And you can re-click your rectangle here. This way you know that you have that selected. Okay, so then we're going to select the upper and yellow stroke, and we're going to set that to 35, and we're going to align that to the inside as well. So let's go back to our appearance window down here, select the correct stroke, select the stroke window, set it to 35, and align it to the inside, and your poster should now look like this. Looks pretty good. Okay, so we already made some progress here. Okay, so let's move to part 2. So we're already done with the background. We've got our complementary colors. And we're going to move on to the type. So in any font we like, we could type keep calm and curry on. And we're going to keep all the caps. And we're going to have a return break in between every word, which means we're just going to type in keep, K-E-E-P, enter, to start a new line, calm, enter, and enter, curry, enter, and on. And then we're going to center align the text. So let's go ahead and do that. So we grab our text tool over here. So just go ahead and write that out. So in all caps too, keep in mind. Keep, calm, and curry on. Okay, so Control A will select all of that. And now we have it selected. So let's see what the next step says to do. We have to center align the text. Let's not forget to do that. So center align is right here. Okay. Back to the tutorial. We're going to select all the text and we're going to change the font to Century Gothic Bold. Okay, so let's do that. So with it selected, we're going to just type in the letter C, and it'll bring us to C, and we're looking for Century Gothic Bold. So we found Century Gothic right here in the list, and instead of regular, you're just going to write, you're going to select bold. Okay, and you don't want 12-point font. Actually, it's going to tell us how big we want it. We're going to worry about the R's and the M and change those to Deja Vu Sans Bold. But from what I understand, this version of Illustrator by default does not have that font. So what we're going to do is we're going to enlarge these first to about 3/4 of our poster. So let's type in, let's select 72 and see what happens here. So we have 72. It's a little too small. Let's try 96. 96 is a bit better. So let's take our selection tool. Our selection tool lets us move and resize our things, the objects in our poster. And remember, the bottom 75%, because what's going to go here is a logo, which we will only use the brown to design later. And we will do that in a minute. But this should be good right here, bottom 75%. And we're going to move on. But before we move on, like I said, we don't have Deja Vu Sans Bold, so we need to figure out what font, use your text tool, to change the M and the R's. Because if you look at the original poster, notice how the M in the Deja Vu, when they changed it, it looks like this. It has the flat tops here. It's flat on the bottom here. And if we look at our M's, I believe they're very... See how it kind of slants here instead of it being straight? Now it's flat, but it's just not what we're looking for. So we need to change our M and our R. So let's find a good font here to use. I just need to remember which one it is. Gill Sans MT, that's what it is. See, it looks a little bit better. It's a little bit wider than the other letters, but we're going to fix that in a little bit, so don't worry about that. You'll notice that it's actually a little bit wider and a little bit shorter. Okay, but we're going to fix that in a little bit, so don't worry. So here you can just type in Gill Sans MT and then hit enter and everything will be okay. So if you look at this right away, you'll notice that there's a difference between these letters. So we go back to this, and we're going to see what it says here. Okay, so part 4 still on typography. We are going to, just like I said, let's scroll back up, just make sure we're not skipping anything here. Okay, we're going to part 3, we're going to select all of our text now, okay, and we're going to right-click, create outline. Or what we're going to do is we're going to do object expand to convert the text to vector shapes. And what that means is that once we do this, once we select all of our text just like this with our text tool, or you could even actually use the direct selection tool, what this is going to do is it's going to take our letters and it's actually going to make them into shapes. So once we do this, we can no longer backspace our letters and type with the type tool, because what they'll be is shapes. So they'll no longer actually be letters, even though they look like letters, but their properties will change and they'll actually be shapes. So let's go ahead and go to Object, Expand, and we're just going to leave Object Fill, and we're going to click OK. Okay. So what's the difference here? Now, if we look at this, we notice that there's these little control points, okay, these little vector anchors, which is a part of all shapes. So if we take our selection tool and we were to click our rectangle, you notice that our rectangle, which is a shape, also has these vector anchors. And now our letters have vector anchors, which shows that they are now shapes and no longer letters. So let's go back to the tutorial. Okay, Object Expand, we convert it to shapes. So if we look at this, here's our letters again, parts 1, 2, 3, and 4. Here we go. Part 4, Century Gothic bold characters, which we use Gill Sans MT instead of Deja Vu. Okay, so they look a little bit thicker than the Century Gothic bold ones, like I said before. So we're gonna give them a little girth. We're gonna give the other letters, make them a little bit wider. This way they match our Gill Sans MT letters. This way you can't really tell too much of a difference between the two. So we're gonna select all the letters that were left in Century Gothic bold, and we're gonna give them a stroke X, okay, shortcut X of 2 pixels. Okay. Keep the letter selected, and then we're going to expand to convert the stroke to fills. And what that's going to do is it's going to add our outline that we're going to do right now. We're going to put those, we're going to use our direct selection tool, and we're going to click on our letters here. And we're going to hold Shift and click everything except for our M and our R's. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a stroke to make them a little bit wider to match our other letters, the M and the R's. And make sure you're not clicking vector points sometimes, because what happens is it creates these white ones that you don't really want. You want them all solid blue. Otherwise, it's not going to come out the way you want to. So it's important not to make that small but very critical mistake that you could make there. So now I have all of these, and I'm going to go to Object. We're going to add a stroke, right? So X. Make sure that the stroke is in front. Here's the stroke. Okay, we're going to keep the stroke the same color right now, and we're going to add a stroke of 2 pixels. Okay, and then we're going to go to Object, Expand, and we click OK. So what we did there is what we're doing is we're taking our shapes, right, our letters, and we're adding a stroke to them. We're adding an outline. And what happens when we do that is it adds the outline separate from the letter. So when we expand them, we're actually expanding the shape to include that stroke as part of the shape. So now we have a big shape, including the original letter and the stroke we just put on it. Okay, so we're going to keep these letters selected. We're going to open the Pathfinder window, Shift-Control-9, and click the top left button, Shape Modes Unite. Okay, so let's see if we can do that. We're going to head over here, Shift-Control, F9. I don't have Shift Control F9 because I'm using a Mac, but you are more than welcome to on your Windows computer. If you want to find the Pathfinder window without the shortcut, it is under, what is this, Window, and you go to Pathfinder. Okay, and you just kind of drag the Pathfinder where you can see it. And we want Shapes Unite, which is Alt-click. That's this one right here. So you click that one, and then you expand it. So after you expand it, you'll notice that our blue lines aren't as thick as they were after expanding previously. Now we have completed the merging of our strokes to our shapes. Okay, so we can go ahead and close that now. You can keep it there if you want to, but I don't think we need it later. Okay, so top left button, we did that. That was this one. We clicked expand. It's all good. Okay, this is where the tutorial gets a little complicated, and I don't really like to deal with it too much. What it's showing you is something that we're going to learn later anyway when creating the logo. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip part 6. We're going to skip part 7, which is part 6 and 7 together. And part 7 is worrying about what's called kerning. It's changing the curves in the letters, and we're not going to worry about that today. We really, really don't need to. The posters come out just as good without it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to select the vector letters that make up and we're going to scale them down about 70%. Notice that up above here, this is what our and looks like originally. It's the same size, okay, up in part 4. But if we scroll down, this is what we want them to look like. We want it to be about this small, and notice how it's evenly spaced from com to and to curry, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. So an easy way to do that is we will select all the vector letters together by select Control G, which will group them. Okay, so let's take our selection tool. That's not going to work. We're going to use our direct selection tool. We're just going to click away, and then we're going to click our. Let's see, it's not working here. Let's see if we can double click with our selection tool. Take your selection tool and double click your letters. And notice how it came, notice how the background is kind of opaque and it really puts the font into focus. Now use your direct selection tool and see if this works. Doesn't seem to be working. Okay. Just kind of wondering why it's not allowing us to just select one letter at a time. Let's see if our tutorial could help us with this. Doesn't say anything about it. Let's see if we can fix this. Okay, it doesn't say anything in that part about it. So we're going to try to figure out how to grab just these letters. Let's take our selection tool. This is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to take my selection tool and I'm going to select my letters. Notice that when I select one of the letters, it selects all of them except the M's and the R's. So I'm going to right click with this box here and I want to hit release compound path. Okay. Now notice what happened was it filled in the holes to our letters. Like for instance, the P now is filled in black where it should not be, and the A and the A and the D and the O. We're going to fix this later. Okay, what we're going to do for now, though, is we're going to select our A with our selection tool, the black arrow, hold shift, and we're going to select the N and the D. And make sure that your the whole of the letter is also selected. So we're going to scale this down by about 70%. And a way to do that is you could hold shift to resize proportionally. And what that means is it's going to automatically change the height and the width at the same time. Notice that even if I go over here, well, now it's upside down, but notice that I can't smush it either way, right? So about 70%. So if this is 100, we're going to scale it down about 70. So it's going to be about 30% of its previous size. which is probably around right here. So I let go, and now I could move my and accordingly. And like I said before, you're going to want to keep the spacing between the and the curry even. Okay, so we need to select either the and make sure it's even, okay, between words, and make sure it's center too. I know it's hard to kind of judge with your eye, but do the best you can. And then we're going to select these letters by clicking and shift clicking additional letters. And we're going to be able to move these down a little bit. Okay. Now notice that my spacing looks pretty even from com to and to curry. And notice that the R and the M are still a little bit short, and you can kind of tell it almost looks wobbly here. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I want to fill these little holes here. So what you do is you take your selection tool and you can just double click the hole itself. For instance, I could double click my A and then click inside here, and I could fill it. Now make sure when you hit X to shortcut to the fill color that it's black, that you don't want it black. You actually want it that yellow color. And our letters need to be this paprika brown color. So remember those RGB codes from before, you probably don't remember them. So you're going to have to go back to the first part of the tutorial to go ahead and copy and paste those. So here's my mustard yellow that I want inside the holes of the letters. So I copy that. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to just go ahead and fill these. So I paste it in here. Okay, there's the A. Double click the P. Get just that. Double click the fill color. Okay. Even the small ones. And if it doesn't work on your first double click, just kind of keep double clicking the whole of the letter until it selects the part that you want to fill. For instance, I just double clicked and it brought me out of the opaque background. Then I double click again, brings me back in. And then I double click and it selects the whole letter. And then I double click again and I finally get where I want to select. So don't worry if it's not working for you on the first time, because it's not for me either. There we go. Okay. All right, so there you go. Now I have all my letters there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my, I guess I could take my direct selection tool and highlight all the letters now by shifting clicking. Remember, you want all of your lines blue, dark blue. And it looks like for the holes, they're going to be white. There we go. Not really sure why it does that, but just make sure that everything is selected properly. Okay, and we're going to fill all of these with that brown color, so we're going to have to go back and get that brown color. Where's that code? There we go. 894621. And we're going to fill these letters in the brown color. And there you have it. Now, it filled in my holes again. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and, if you notice your fill color here, probably have changed back to the golden yellow. Just go ahead and copy this code again, so you don't have to go back to the tutorial and hit cancel. And then with your direct selection tool, you'll be able to just go ahead and, well, let's use our selection tool. Isolate it, just like before, and just change the color code number here. Go. You just do this to every single one. Look like I only did it to the D, the A, and the P here. My R's and the O look fine. So we're just gonna select ourselves. Whoops. Out of here, and there we go. We're looking pretty good. So let's move on. So we scroll all the way back down to where we're supposed to be. Part 7. Okay, we're okay there. Okay, so apparently ours should look like this, and ours doesn't because we did not change the height of the M and the R's yet. So let's go back. Looks like the tutorial forgot to actually mention that. So what we're gonna do is I want you to select with your selection tool. Okay, I want you to double click on your letters here, and I want you to select your M. That's how we're gonna start. We're gonna zoom in really far here. We're gonna zoom in at about 150. Let's try 200% is good. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take this white bounding box, this white vector anchor, and you're going to make it even with the L. Okay, and it should look like that. And you're going to do that to the R's as well, and I'll do that right now. Make sure it's perfect though. Take your time, pause the video if you need to, and make sure that they are perfect. That one's a little long. There you go. We could zoom back out to 66.67% if we like. And there we go. There you have it. Okay, so there's your Keep Calm and Curry On poster as we know it. So the only thing we're missing now is our logo, or our little icon up top, which in the original one it's a crown. I'm sure you've all seen it before. But since this one is a tutorial, we want to make an icon or a logo or a little image there using as many tools as we possibly can. So that's why I really like this tutorial. We're actually going to learn how to use the ellipse tool here, and we're going to use this color once again. So make sure you copy that brown color. Okay, we're going to make an ellipse tool and we'll draw a squat circle. If you don't know what a squat circle is, you'll find out momentarily. And we're going to remove the stroke if there's one on it. So we're going to go to our rectangle tool, and if you click and hold on the rectangle tool, click and hold, the menu will pop up, and keep your mouse held until you get to the ellipse tool and let go, and now you have an ellipse. Okay, so we're going to make a squat circle. Okay, so all that is a squatted circle. So there you have it. Now obviously I don't want it on top of my letters, so I have to move it up, and I want it centered. That's very important. Centering it is very important. So make sure that there's the same distance from the left border to the ellipse and the right border to the ellipse. And there's the same type of spacing from the bottom of the ellipse here to the keep as there is from the keep to the calm. Okay? We want to be evenly spaced. And keep in mind that you also want the space between the bottom of the ellipse and the keep is the same as the top of the border. This brown border here to the ellipse. So I'm going to actually move it down a little bit. Okay. So there we have it. It looks actually a little bit to the right. So I'm going to move it over. Alright, there we go. So I have my ellipse selected. Now if you have a stroke on it, this is the stroke for your ellipse, and to hit no stroke, it's right here. Like tutorial said, sometimes you might have that by default. So make sure that you go ahead and fix that and click no stroke. So back to the tutorial. Okay, so we're going to take the pen tool and we're going to remove the top vector anchor. Okay, and the shortcut for that is P for pen tool. Okay, so go ahead and hit P, and you'll notice that your tool will change from the selection tool to the pen tool. And when you just hover over the top vector point, notice that it changes from an X next to your pen to a minus symbol. Just go ahead and click the top vector anchor. And notice that it gets rid of it, and now there's a curve across the top of your squat circle. It's no longer an even circle, but we don't want it to be since it's going to be actually a dish or a bowl. That's what we're going to make it look like. Okay, so with the direct selection tool, A, okay, the shortcut for that is A, select the left and right vector anchors and pull the up-facing hands back into the anchor dots. This will flatten the ellipse shape into a bowl. So what that means is you're going to, you notice these little vector points here, these little handles, that's what they're called. We're going to take our direct selection tool. You're going to click and hold this circle, and you're going to drag it right down into this vector anchor with the line still straight. Notice how it's not straight here, and it's going to alter my shape significantly. You want it straight, and it'll kind of snap into place when you have it correct. Okay, and pull that one down, and it snaps. Almost. There we go. And now I have something that looks like a bowl or a dish. Scroll on down. So this is what we just did. We have our squat circle. We drag these handles down, and now we have our dish. Okay, now we're going to take, it tells us to take the pen tool and draw a handle. The pen tool is a very complicated tool and a very difficult and frustrating tool if you're a beginner. So what I want you to do is I want you to actually use the pencil tool. And we'll use the direct selection tool to tweak and smooth out any curves or mess ups that we might have. You might be drawing these handles over and over again. Okay, don't be discouraged. Okay, so what should your handle look like? So your handle, you're going to use the pencil tool right here. And when you use the pencil tool, it doesn't look like I'm using the pencil tool. I should click away from here. Now use the pencil tool. Okay, remember you want to use the same brown color. Make sure that the color of your pencil tool is the correct. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Let's see if this works. Okay, let's see. Change that. Doesn't seem to be working, huh? I'm assuming you have to change the stroke color of the pencil. There we go. Notice that the stroke is enormous, and you really, really don't want that. So we'll change it to 1 pixel. So we don't want this, so we're going to delete this, and we're going to try drawing it ourselves now. We're going to start at the top of the dish, and we're going to go along the side a little bit sloppy. Okay, I'm using a trackpad, so it's a little bit harder than using your mouse. Okay, and you're just going to connect it just like that. Now notice mine is not filled in. You do want to fill color, because once you connect your pencil lines, it creates a shape. And when it creates a shape, you're obviously going to want to fill that in the same color as your dish. So I could either hit the delete key right now because I'm not happy with this one, or I could try to fix it up by moving the vector anchors around. So I can use my direct selection tool to do that. So I could select this vector anchor and kind of smooth out whatever's wrong with my handles. Hopefully it doesn't look too terrible. See, this isn't good. I don't like this little this little mess up here in my corner here. If I zoom in 400%, you can probably see it better. Notice this is no good, and this is no good. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to select it, I'm going to delete it, and I'm going to try again. And just keep trying it until you get it. Yeah, I'm not going to like that one either. In design, you're actually going to become very, very picky about what you do and don't like about your creations. And that's kind of part of the fun. So I'm going to take my direct selection tool. I'm going to select this one. I'm going to bring it in a little bit. There we go. Hey, that looks pretty good. The only problem I have here is this one. Yeah, see, this isn't good because it actually doesn't touch. Now it does. And there's actually a missing divot here, but just for the sake of the tutorial and moving this along, I'm just going to move along. Now notice I'm actually moving my background around. You don't want to do that. So be sure you're not doing that. Let me zoom out to make sure that everything is where it needs to be. It's not, so I'm just undoing it until I do. So I'm going to take my selection tool, make sure there's a fill color on it, and click OK. So now what I could do with my handle is I could actually go ahead and copy it and then paste it and then flip it horizontally. So all I did was I selected it with my selection tool, I Control C, and then I Control V, and that pasted the copied handle. So what I want to do now is I want to actually flip it over. So let's see how we could do that. I think it's under Object, Transform, and we're going to, I think we can reflect it actually. It's just a matter of which way. Vertical. Vertical is the correct way. And we're just going to click and drag this to the same exact area that it is on the other side. It's a little bit lower on this side. Don't be afraid to zoom in when it comes to Illustrator, because if it's perfect, the further you zoom in, that means it's even better when you zoom out. Okay, so let's see. That's a little bit above the bowl itself, and so is that one. So if I look at that, I look at that, I zoom out, let's see what it looks like. Hey, there we go. It looks pretty good. So let's go back to the tutorial. Okay, their handles are a little bit more upright. I'm okay with mine. And if you're okay with mine, then I'm okay with yours, as long as they look smooth and they're pretty close to the dish like they're supposed to be. So even the tutorial told us to Control C, Control V, and then reflect, and we dragged the cursor over and we flipped it vertically, okay, and we put it on the bowl. Next, we're going to draw a small circle with the ellipse tool, and we're going to hold shift to keep it perfectly round. Remember that proportion resizing that we were talking about before? We're going to do that again. So let's zoom in 400%. And where you want to draw this ellipse, you can use the shortcut L or click, is right here in the corner. And now I didn't hold shift, so notice that I could squash and elongate my circle. I don't want that, so I'm going to undo. Remember, hold shift, then click and drag, and see how nice that shape comes out. Now obviously there's a fill and a stroke on here. What I don't want is I don't want a stroke, right? So I just double click the stroke, or actually nope, I cancel that. I don't want a stroke, so I go up here and I hit no stroke. Okay, and I do want the yellow because I want to see through it, and as you see in the tutorial in a second, it's going to look just like that. So we're going to move the circle to the top left corner of the bowl, and we're going to change the circle fill color to the mustard yellow, which it already was, and remove the stroke if there is one, which I already have. So if you don't have that, go ahead and pause the video and fix that. So for step 7, we're going to Control C and then Control F. But first, let's make sure that we're evenly spaced. We're going to take our selection tool so we can move it. And make sure that the spacing right here from the edge to the circle is the same from here to the edge in the circle. And then copy that, and that's Control C, and then Control F to paste in place. And what this does is it just puts it right on top of one another. If any of you are familiar with Bryce, you remember that when you hit Control D, it used to duplicate the shape right on top of one another. That's kind of like what this is doing. Okay, so it's pasting right onto the original, and we're gonna drag the pasted shape to the top right of the bowl. And if you hold Shift while dragging, it'll only go perfectly horizontal or vertical. So I'm gonna zoom out so I can see the other side of my bowl and my destination where I want to drag it to. So I'm gonna hold Shift, click, hold, and drag. That didn't work. How about I click, hold, then hold Shift? There we go. And you're gonna want to mirror that image right there. And that didn't work, and I'm not really sure why. So I'm going to redo that, actually. What I did there is I actually Control V'd. So I'm going to Control F and see if that works again. There we go. Yeah, it's not mirroring the way I want it to. So what I'm going to do is, since it's not working for me, I'm just going to copy it. I'm going to paste. I'm going to try to paste it. I'm going to try to drag it over it myself, and then I'm going to hold Shift and click and drag. Click, hold Shift, and drag across. And it actually looks a little too close to this edge right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to fix that. So zoom in 300. So this is a little off. There we go. That should look a lot better. Much better. Okay, let's go back to the tutorial. And what we're going to do is we're going to select both circles. So we're going to shift click to both of them. We're going to Object, Blend, Make to blend the two shapes together. It'll look terrible, it says. So let's go ahead and do that. So Object, Blend, Make, or Alt Control B. So select both. So one, and then shift click, and notice the box it makes. Okay, and we're going to go to Object, Blend, Make. And now notice it's not looking the way we want it to, because the way we want it to look is actually like this right here. So we're just not there yet. So we're going to go to Object, Blend, Blend Options, and select Specified Steps from the spacing dropdown, and put a number, say 7, in the input box. 7 is just an estimate. We'll see how it looks. So Object, Blend, Blend Options, select Specified Steps, and from the spacing dropdown, put a number 7. Object, Blend, Blend Options, Object, Blend, Blend Options, Spacing, Specified Steps, put a 7, and click OK. And now our circles look the way we want them to. So we have found our perfect blend that it speaks of in the tutorial. Okay, so now we're going to make the steam. The steam coming out of the dish, once again, it tells you to use the pen tool. I find the pen tool very difficult to use, and once again, we're not going to be using it. Here we're actually going to diversify our tools, and we're going to use the paintbrush tool. I really like the way the paintbrush tool works. It makes these really, really cool brush strokes. We'll have to zoom in a little bit here. I like to kind of try to make that shape simply by going near here and making that. But notice that there's nothing here. So make sure that your stroke color is set to the brown color. And I don't have that. I think it was 8943. Can't remember the last couple. Gonna have to go back and find it. 894621. Wasn't even close. 894621, and click OK. And you notice what this looks like. It's just a brush stroke. That's all it is, right? And you're going to want to do this until you get the right one. I really need to keep this color there. 894621. And we're going to try to mimic that shape if we can. So we're going to delete that. That one wasn't what I wanted. Not what I wanted. Oh, hit the Windows key there. Okay, so once you find one you like, I kind of like this one, so I'll work with it. If you take the direct selection tool, just like before, you can double click here, these vector points. Okay, and you can kind of mess with these if you want to adjust the shape of your Steam. But what you're going to do after that is you're going to go to Object, Expand Appearance. And when that happens is it gives you more creativity here. And I mean to click that. I'm actually going to double click here. And I'm going to drag this point out. And you'll notice what it does here. Okay. So this is more of like what you want for your Steam. You're going to start messing with this until you get something that's close to what's on the tutorial. Now this obviously doesn't look like Steam. If I go back and I look at what it's supposed to look like, something like this. Okay, that's what you're going to want it to look like. So see what I was doing with my paintbrush? I did this, and then I expanded the appearance, and it converted the stroke to a fill again, which is how it gives me this feature to move it around and really make it wider. So let's go ahead and go back. And you continue working on this. I'm just going to spend a little bit of time to get it the best I can. But it's definitely not going to be perfect. So I expect yours to be much, 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 much better than mine. So I'm actually going to get rid of this. It's just not happening the way I want it to. And go back to my paintbrush tool. Yeah, nope. Nope. It's actually a lot harder with a trackpad, believe it or not. Okay. I'm going to kind of leave mine like this. I'm going to expand it like I'm supposed to. And then I'll take my direct selection tool and I'll kind of mess with it a bit. See what happens. Now remember, you want this centered above your bowl. And if we have 7 dots, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 9. I have 9. Yours might be different. You might want to count them. But if you have an odd number, then just make sure that your Steam is over the middle ellipse here. I'm just going to... Whoops. I'm just going to change this a little bit more. Oh, can't do what I want to do. So make sure everything is smooth and it looks the way it's supposed to. Like I said, yours is going to look much, much, much better than mine. This is just not going to be my best work today. Yeah, it's pretty ugly. But I'll expect yours to be much better. Okay, so here it tells you to, you could tweak the Steam if you want to. But this is using the pen tool, and like I said, you don't have to do that. Okay, and of course, scale the smoke shape and move it to the center of the bowl, just like I told you. Okay, and that's it. So there you go. You have your Keep Calm poster. So let's go ahead and zoom out and see what we created. Go to 100%. I think my dish is a little large for what I was looking for. Now that I look at it now, it's a little too wide. You probably want to keep, for future reference, you probably want to keep the bowl inside the letters. Notice how it goes way outside. You probably want to keep it inside the widest word, which is curry, so you probably don't want the handles to protrude out that way. So an easy way to fix this, for instance, let me show you. You're going to have to select every single shape here. Okay, so you could group them, and you could group them, I believe, by hitting Control G. Okay, so that didn't work for me. But you can hold shift and proportionally, whoops, and move that. I'm going to undo that. Okay, and then you can move these all together to the middle. And it probably looks much, much better. That's better. Much better. Okay, so here's my dish. Now it fits inside the curry. That's how I wanted it. Everything looks centered. Everything looks good. And this is it. Here's your Keep Calm poster. Okay, we're gonna save this as two different types of files. Make sure you save these both in your Q drive and in the correct student common drive, if I tell you to. So let's go ahead and file save as. Mine doesn't seem to be working. Save copy maybe? Nope, not getting anything here. Seems broken to me. What if I close it? Yes, I want to save it. It's not bringing up my dialog box, but there you have it. Make sure you save it in the right spot. And I hope you had fun making your Keep Calm poster. Can't wait to see what you guys come up with.